Former Delegate Paul Espinosa texted me, and in regards to the question, who are the 5 delegates who represent the city, and are there 4 or are there 5? The answer is 5. Of course, we have Height Hornby and Lisa White. And then, as speculated, Larry Kump and Chuck Horst, or Hurst, depending on which day you ask Chuck how to pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
They even sent the maps, too.
I thought it was 5.
Yeah. So 5 Republicans representing the city, as opposed to 1 Democrat in the old days, Mike Height.
Correct.
Right?
Good for Martinsburg. That's a lot of representation for one city.
Does it take 5 to compensate for 1, Mike?
Jason Barrett was a valuable member.
No, not at all.
Yeah, that used to be Mr. Barrett, who, when he was a member of the House of Delegates, who had the city, I guess the entirety of the city.
Yes.
We are gathered around this table. I feel like I'm giving Thanksgiving grace a week and a half early.
Go ahead, Rob.
Mr. Ferretti via telephone. Joe, good morning to you.
Good morning, fellas.
Good morning.
Where do we find you located this morning? This is like always that find Where's Waldo thing. Where's Ferretti?
I have returned from West Virginia, and I'm back home in Georgia.
In Georgia. All right. Are you used to saying that Georgia is your home yet, Joe?
No, I'll never get used to that. I still have a place in West Virginia, and I'm proud to be a taxpayer in West Virginia. And I consider that, it was my home for over 33 years. So hard to say that any other place would be home.
And you get to vote in West Virginia and Georgia, correct?
Yeah. You're going to get the Facebook crew after me again after that last. No, let's not go there.
Yeah, that was a joke a couple of years ago, and someone took it very seriously and got very angry with Ferretti. I think they called the FBI, and people broke down his front door and dragged him away from his house. He was in the gulag for a year, no representation.
I think his grandparents are still voting in the primary.
We welcome back our co-hosts from the first half hour, Mr. Stubblefield and Mr. Height.
Good morning, Rob. Good to be here.
Our longest tenured member of our crew, Mr. Michael Carl.
Good morning.
Attorney at law, Lawrence Schultz.
Great to be here.
And with issue number 1, it is time for Joe Ferretti.
Rob, as we wait with bated breath for the new legislative session to kick up and to see what goodies our legislature has for us, including Mike Height. I wanted to turn our attention to a pretty broad subject this morning, one involving foreign policy, because I think it has a lot of effects that will take hold domestically, and I really want to see what the panel thinks about that. 800 miles to the south of the United States, which is roughly the length of the state of California, lies the country of Venezuela. And it is the location now for the largest military force ever put together by the United States since 1962. Off the coast of Venezuela, we have destroyers, we have submarines, we have an aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, which is the length of 11 football fields, a little less than a quarter of a mile. And on that ship, we have, of course, an array of bombers and jet fighters ready to go at the request of the president if we are to engage militarily with the country of Venezuela. And all signs indicate that that is a real risk. In fact, Trump recently was quoted as saying that the president of Venezuela, Maduro, has to go and that land strikes could come soon. He recently announced that the CIA has been authorized to engage in incursions into the country of Venezuela and to use lethal measures if necessary. In September, since September, approximately 20 strikes on Venezuelan ships and boats, really, off the coast of Venezuela have taken place. And we've seen the video on television, of course, with these drone strikes wiping out these boats, allegedly bringing drugs to various parts of the Caribbean. And as this is going on and we're mobilizing as a country, Venezuela has just the past week issued an order mobilizing 800,000 of their troops, getting ready for what they think will be a land invasion by the United States. So all this is taking place. And, of course, as we've seen with the attack on Iraq here recently, when the president starts signaling that he may move militarily, sometimes he follows through. So the concern here is, are we going into Venezuela in some kind of military action? So I want to focus on this in terms of the political angles, the domestic issues at home. My first reaction would be that this is counter to what President Trump campaigned on, the American First agenda, and no more endless wars outside of our boundaries. Secondly, domestically, we've got issues with our economy. We've got legal entanglements involving the Trump administration. We've got the disruption that artificial intelligence is causing. We've just got through a shutdown. There's a lot going on domestically. And I'm just wondering how this is going. The fact that we now have a potential military action brewing, how that's going to be, how that's going to play domestically. And of course, look at the perspective that China and Russia might have over this and their spheres of influence. Russia claims that Ukraine on its border is a situation that they have to handle militarily, and we know how China is looking at Taiwan. What kind of signals are they going to take from a situation where we potentially go into Venezuela? So I think those are the angles to look at domestically. Apparently, and the reports indicate that Secretary of State Rubio is driving this move towards military action in Venezuela. And if Trump and Rubio want Maduro gone, at what cost to the country will there be? And my question is, how is this going to play domestically if war comes to pass, or if there's any military action against Venezuela? How's this going to play domestically with Trump, the MAGA crowd? How's it going to play with the citizens as a whole in terms of the issues that I talked about? And what about the other influences across the globe, namely China and Russia? Is there cause for concern here if we go forward militarily?
Bill Stubblefield, lead us off.
Yeah, Joe, you've raised several points, and this has a lot of people concerned. For one, is legality. Is it in fact conflict with maritime and international law? A lot of people says it is. There have been several senior military officials that have actually resigned or retired because they feel that they are violating maritime and international law. The president says nope, it's well within the maritime law, or he's ignoring it, one of the two. The president recently said that for every boat that we knock out with Venezuela, 25,000 American lives are saved. And said that if we actually this can be viewed as an act of kindness for saving the U.S. this heartache. The question about with Congress, is Congress involved? Congress should be involved in this, but yet they're not. The third thing, or the fourth thing perhaps, is the influence of China and Russia to a much less degree. We're in a campaign trying to keep our allies that have for years been supportive of us in the face of supporting China. This is one of several things, including what we've done with the tariffs, that's driving our allies farther and farther away from us, actually into the camp of China. So there's both a long-term and a short-term problem here. I think the short term is, are we violating international law? The long term is, what is it doing to what had once been strong allies that are now being pushed to being more in league with China?
Let's go to your breakfast buddy on Thursdays, Mr. Carl.
Well, I have a probably about 180-degree different response.
No doubt, Mike.
And both in terms of the outcome and the length of it. I have complete confidence, and based on his record, in Trump's insights into the need to be doing this with Venezuela, and I have also confident that it's legal, and I think it's absolutely necessary. I can't make a detailed case for it because it's just something that I haven't been concerned about because I have so much trust in Trump and his leadership.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes. Senator Rand Paul says there's no fentanyl manufactured in Venezuela. He also says that some of those boats that they're blowing up would be required to refuel 20 times to get to the shores of the U.S. I don't know if that's true or not, but he's a Republican senator, and I find this just borderline crazy. Am I confident that it's going to be considered by the international criminal courts with regard to an international law about it? Not in time to save the lives of the American soldiers that will be undoubtedly lost, and sailors that will be undoubtedly lost if we launch this insanity. And I do agree that you're giving both Xi and Putin an opportunity to say, see, you do it too. And Putin will be saying it after he attacked Ukraine, and Xi will be saying it just before he attacks Taiwan. I think this is mostly a distraction. I have fair confidence that it will suddenly go away and not happen. On the other hand, I have a great deal of fear that if we launch this, all of these things that Bill talked about in terms of the Chinese and the Russian interpretation of what we've done are going to come back to haunt this country for a long time.
Mr. Haidt.
Yeah, I'm sort of torn on this one. I'm very particular in how we use our military and what we use them for. And I don't like the fact that this seems to be being played out in the media as much as it is for political reasons, where we need to show the bombing of a boat at least once a week. If you're going to do these things, just do it. I don't need to know about it in the media all the time. This isn't unprecedented. We did the same thing with Panama and Noriega. We have to remember that Maduro is a convicted drug trafficker in the United States. He's been tried in the United States and convicted as a drug trafficker, much like Noriega was in Panama. We went into Panama, we took down that regime, and we arrested Noriega. And this seems like a similar situation, something that the United States wants to do. But at the same time, I don't like the fact of how it's being played out. I think with Noriega, we went in, it was a strike. I don't think Noriega saw it coming. Bam, we got him out. It was over with. This seems to be more like a production, and I just don't like productions when we're talking about the United States military and how it plays out politically. Those types of things irritate me. I would rather, instead of you bombing a boat a week, that you just go in there and take care of business and get the hell out.
Mike, you mentioned production, and it is getting a lot of weekly press or daily press, but where's it coming from? DOD is being very close chest with a lot of stuff they're doing these days, but not with these. All the film clips are coming from DOD themselves. They're the ones that's promoting this, is spreading it out every time there's an attack. You cannot blame the media for using the film clips that the DOD's providing them.
I wasn't blaming the media. I'll blame this administration. I'll blame the DOD. I don't have a problem doing that. I'm just saying I don't like the fact that it is a production, and it's a production for political reasons, and I don't like that. Maybe that's a strategy to try to take this down without using more military force than what we're currently using. And maybe that's their strategy. I don't know. I certainly don't want to see boots on the ground. I don't want to see us invading another country over something like this. Now, if this is like the Panama situation, we're going in after one man, okay, I'm okay with that. We've already set a precedent that we go after drug traffickers, especially convicted drug traffickers. And if that's what we're doing, fine. Then just do it.
Yeah. It would be helpful if they could actually show us even 1 gram of fentanyl.
Well, they blow it
one
up,
of these
Larry.
boats. Well, isn't that convenient for them?
Okay.
How about you capture one of those boats if you're going to use the military anyway, and search it for fentanyl. If there's no fentanyl in it, and quite frankly, I think they think that there is no fentanyl in those boats, because otherwise they would have done this already, and we'd have found out about it the next day that they found 50 pounds of fentanyl.
Maybe not. I mean, that's the Democratic spin on the whole thing.
Yeah,
no, that's the hey, don't send us to war for BS reasons spin. But I realize the Democrats are ahead on that, but
yeah, I don't know about that.
What is missing in all this is a rigorous discussion of the legality of what we've done. Legality in the terms of international and maritime law.
Well, like I said, there's precedent for. You're talking about the actual bombing of the boats itself.
Yes, exactly
okay.
right. Exactly right. Yes, and there's been limited discussion of the legality. NPR has done a few clips on it, but not the in-depth that we really should have.
Joe, back to you for a moment.
Well, I'll address first Mike Carl's statement that he trusts implicitly the decision-making at the Trump administration. It wasn't just only a few weeks ago that Admiral Halsey, who was the commander of the U.S. Southern Command, resigned his position. And he was an admiral, so we know that's a cushy job. He resigned. I
have a long memory, Joe. I'll get back at you.
He abandoned the gravy
train. He resigned over the military mission that's being conducted in Central South America. So there's some people within the administration itself and within the military that don't see eye to eye with some of the decision makers at the top, which includes the commander-in-chief. So I don't know that we can rest soundly trusting the instincts of the Trump administration on this matter. And then secondly, look, this is, again, a guy who campaigned on really looking at America first. And when you see the reports that the drugs coming from Venezuela into this country are minuscule in amount compared to what's coming in from Colombia, what's coming in from Mexico, those countries should be targeted first if drug interdiction is the goal of the administration. But that's not taking place. We're going after Maduro because, from the reports I've seen, Senator Rubio doesn't want him in power anymore. Now, if this is just a show of force to negotiate an exit strategy for Maduro and get him out of office, okay, that's great. I hope that happens. But if that doesn't come to pass and Maduro digs in, the only other option we have is to go in militarily, and I think that's going to be a huge mistake on a number of fronts. And I think this is going to play into what is quickly developing in this country, which is a weakening of President Trump in terms of his domestic support, because the MAGA base is not going to be happy if we go in militarily. And they're not happy over Epstein. They're not happy over some of the affordability issues. They certainly weren't happy over the last election results. So this could be another problem for Trump going forward as a lame duck president. Is he going to start eroding his base of support if military action is taking place down there at the northern tip of South America?
Why is Rubio so motivated to get rid of Maduro, Joe?
I think it's let's remember he's from South Florida. His parents were Cuban, and he has had a thing for these tin pot dictators, including Castro and now Maduro in Venezuela, who's only in office through hook and crook. I mean, let's be real about that. He cheated to maintain his lofty status in Venezuela. And Rubio's back to when he was a senator, he has spoken out against the politics and the leadership in Venezuela. And now that he is both Secretary of State and National Security Advisor, he has a lot of sway with President Trump. And reportedly, he's the one who's pushing this forcefully to really put the pressure and the screws in Venezuela.
Are they looking for Grenada to start finish up the first year of the this term of the presidency?
Well, there's always the wag the dog theory too when things get rough domestically. But I'm not there yet. But I am concerned that this is military adventuresome that is just not well timed for this country right now.
And coming back, something we've all said earlier, there's a couple of things on this that really bothers me. The legality and the fact that we're losing important allies.
Yeah, let's go back to the boat bombings for a moment. So those are interesting in and of themselves. I mean, if these boats are loaded with drugs and headed for distribution in the United States, my guess is most Americans are probably cheering the fact that we're blowing them out of the water. We don't need a boatload of drugs brought onto our shores, whether the boats can reach our shores directly or they're getting them to a distribution point where they ultimately wind up in the country. I don't think anybody's going to shed a tear for any of these people that are driving boats that are stocked with drugs. I don't know if they are. And my curious question on this is, if I have a fast boat and I'm cruising through the ocean along those lanes, am I just getting blown out of the water? I mean, is there a better way of filtering the process of who gets the missile and who doesn't?
Pretty big high price to pay for fishing.
Well, I mean, you're probably not fishing in that kind of a boat, but I mean, I don't know. That's an interesting issue. How do you're discerning which boats are getting blown out of the water and which aren't?
Well, we're assuming that that the United States is just waiting for a fast boat to show up on the water and then blowing it up because it's moving fast. We're assuming that there are no intelligence agencies on the ground watching these boats being loaded or watching them leave the port and identifying them and following them until they get out into open water before they do something like this. I would have to believe that we are a whole lot more technologically advanced at this point, and that we have intelligence agencies in and around these ports and watching these things go on way ahead of time. We know way before a rocket or bomb is dropped on one of these boats what's in it and who's transporting it.
We hope to, but we had been led to believe in what we just saw happen between Gaza and Israel, that a lot of these vehicles were supposed to be filled with terrorists, and some of them were filled with cooks who were bringing food. So, I mean, we can trust as much as we want, but do we really know?
Well, and some reports are out there, Rob. These people on these boats, they're not drug kingpins or the hierarchy of the drug trade in Venezuela. These are drug mules who are, at the threat of a gun to their head or to their family's head, are recruited to operate these boats. The drug folks aren't on those boats.
Right.
So they get drug mules to do that, and these folks are getting blown up.
And I'm not having a lot of sympathy for drug mules who are getting blown up. I mean, don't get me wrong here.
But it would be nice to have some proof that they are actually drug mules.
I think that's
by showing us the
point.
Drugs.
Yeah, pull a boat over and do the photo op, right? Hey, that concludes segment 1. Thank you, Joe. We go to the top of the hour. This is Talk Radio, WNR Martinsburg and TV10. Admiral, you are on the clock. Friday panel, including Mr. Ferretti via telephone. We have Lauren Schultz, attorney at law.
Great to be here.
Delegate Michael Haidt.
Good morning.
Longest tenured member of our crew, Mr. Michael Carl.
Good morning.
And with issue number 2, the Admiral, Bill Stubblefield.
Yeah, I'm going to go from international to national and then to some degree even state. This past week, along with Senator Capito, the administrator of the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, Lee Zeldin, I think, was in the state. And in a couple of interviews, he made a remark, said the EPA's principal role is to get out of the way. He was dealing with permits and regulations. Got me thinking. EPA is responsible, was formed in the Clinton years, and to enforce the nation's Clean Air and Clean Waters Act. If any state is dependent upon being environmentally attractive, it's West Virginia. We're shifting more and more toward the tourism. And we certainly had a long history of polluted streams, polluted lakes, catchment ponds from the oil. And it got me also looking to see what the EPA has done recently. They proposed lessening the reporting requirements and the containment for the forever chemicals, that group of chemicals which are known as human carcinogens. So in September, the agency asked the Court of Appeal to reverse regulatory standards for 3 PFAS chemicals, these forever chemicals, meaning that the companies no longer have to ensure they're under the current maximum containment level. So the fact that the administrator of EPA recently said our principal role or our job is to stay out of the way, to back off, and yet the responsibility of Clean Air, enforcing Clean Air and Clean Water Act, I ask my question, is there an inconsistency between the role of EPA under the Trump administration and its name, environmental protection?
Mr. Ferretti.
Well, the inconsistency, to the extent one exists, is borne out by the fact that the EPA is being gutted of its inspectors, and the Department of Justice is being gutted of the prosecutors who pursue companies who violate the various regulations that protect our water and our air. Bill, years ago, I was part of a bucket brigade in the headwaters of the Cranberry River. We hauled in by hand limestone fines to dump into the headwaters to reduce the acidity that the Cranberry River suffered from due to decades of coal-fired power plant emissions, which rained acid rain down on wide swaths of this country and poisoned the streams to the point where the Cranberry River could barely support trout, which was a recreational pursuit of mine and many others in West Virginia. We hauled those limestone fines in to decrease the acidity and to allow that stream to thrive as a fishery for the people who enjoy the outdoors in West Virginia, which is one of our leading economic development efforts in the state. So we did that because of acid rain. And the Clean Air Act helped ameliorate a lot of the problems that we experienced back in the 70s and 80s, to the point where our streams are coming back. I fear we're going to have a regression in that area because of the fact that people are being furloughed right and left. Prosecutors are being let go at the Department of Justice, and there's not going to be any enforcement of these environmental protections that have been around for decades. So, I think there is a real problem with the direction of Lee Zeldin and the EPA, and I fear that we're going to suffer long-term consequences as a result.
Mr. Carl.
Well, I have always been disturbed by our goal is to get out of the way points, statements made by environmental regulators, we're talking about. And I've always just hoped that it meant that they would get out of the way because everybody, businesses and individuals were complying with environmental protection rules, and they didn't need to be actively enforcing, penalties and so forth. But that's otherwise it's just odd terminology, and I agree it's a concern if they're literally not doing their job of protecting the environment.
Mr. Schultz?
Yeah, I've gotten a few speeding tickets in my life that made me wish that the police would just get out of the way. But the problem with that, other parts of my life have shown me, is that a lot of people will get injured and die if they get out of the way. So this is really the same thing on a different playing field. The cleanliness of our air and water are fundamental to our continued existence as a relatively healthy nation. And the idea of systematically saying, okay, we're going to hire all these federal employees, and when they're not laid off because of Elon Musk or a shutdown, we're going to actually spend our time actively ignoring the very problem they were hired to deal with. That's insanity. I think I probably have said that term a couple of times today. But West Virginia is past the day when our coal industry is king. We're past that day, and we're looking to a future of tourism. The county where I live in Morgan County, the Cacapon River is one of the cleanest rivers in the eastern United States. It's a wonderful place, and the only reason it is able to do that is because by hook or by crook or by luck, nobody built any coal-fired power plants on its basis, and there didn't happen to be any coal deposits nearby for acid mine drainage to make it to the river. It's also true that the EPA has done a great job of saying, hey, when we get a really clean river, we're going to pay double attention to that one because this is a real gem. And if they ever messed up the Cacapon River, I think I'd have to leave. And if they don't pay attention, somebody will come along and mess it up.
You've just provided some of our viewership and listenership, Larry, incentive to pollute the river. Unintentionally, I'm sure.
But you'll notice I pronounced Cacapon right several times.
Many people in this room really have a handle on that, yes. Yeah.
The big C.
The big C, yes. Mr. Height.
So let me first say I don't have a problem with the EPA. I think it serves a necessary function. I have a problem with the overregulation that I think that the EPA does from time to time. And so I don't have a problem with this administration reducing the size and scope of the EPA. I just wish they would be more selective in how they do it. We don't need to be reducing PFAS regulations. What we need to be doing is getting rid of stupid crap like stormwater management fees that serve no damn purpose whatsoever other than to tax people for more bureaucracy in states that feed into the Chesapeake Bay. So these federal mandates that are handed down by the EPA that make no sense is what we should be focusing on, and not necessarily PFAS regulations that are meant to keep us healthy and not get us sick. So while I believe the EPA has a position in our government, they are way, way, way too big, and they overregulate, and they need to be reduced, but not the way we're doing it.
Yeah, it'd be nice if Congress became a functional body and would avoid the overreach that you're talking about.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's always an interesting relationship between any country and its environment, and there's a delicate balance there. Certainly, Joe, yourself, growing up in Pittsburgh, and the mills closing in the 70s and the 80s, and you can fish in a river in the city of Pittsburgh right now because they are some of the cleanest rivers on the globe. But in the 70s, when everybody was working, they weren't. But now you don't have anywhere near the opportunities for people who are coming out of high school without a degree to land in a mill and get a job for 30, 40 years and then have a pension, be able to make a middle-class living and provide for your family and the way it used to be after World War II. That's not the case, and a lot of that has to do with the relationship between the mills and manufacturing and the EPA. It makes it more expensive to do your manufacturing here in America, so take that combined with labor costs, and it's easier to just go overseas where they might not regulate as tightly, and you don't have to pay as much, and next thing you know, there's a bunch of people who have a clean river and no job. So there's a balance there, and on occasion, and sometimes too often, it tilts in one direction more so than the other, and that can be detrimental in various ways.
There's a sub-level of on this point that I made, and that's the administrator of EPA. The administrator of any large agency should be politically savvy enough to watch how they say something. He may have a good intent, but when he comes out and makes this blanket statement, we're going to get out of the way. That is not a smart marketing ploy by administrator of a large agency.
No, I think he meant to say we're going to deregulate, and the way he said it was poorly done.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
I agree, Mike, and I on both counts.
You'd like to turn on the tap and know that the water that you get out of it isn't glowing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to be honest, he's talking about he and Capito were there for the coal-fired plants, and if he had limited the coal-fired plants, that'd been one thing. But he did not. He made this blanket statement that I think was subject to interpretation and overinterpretation, and that's what I was driving at.
Issue number 3, Mr. Michael Haidt.
Well, mine's going to be, thank goodness that Congress has gotten back to work. Why the Speaker of the House went into recess when Congress was still getting paid, I have no idea. And even as a Republican, was not real happy about that. Just because there's a government shutdown, if you're still getting paid, you can still go to work. You can work on other things. So why he wasn't taking care of the people's business during the shutdown, I have no idea, and it sort of irritates me. Having said that, it looks like now that they are back to work and he has sworn in the new replacements in the House, it looks like there's going to be a vote soon to release the Epstein files.
Which may be the answer to your previous question, by the way.
Yeah. Which was the answer to my previous question. So, since there's going to be a release of the Epstein files, my question is this what the Democrats need to get the news off of the shutdown? And now, I'll add this to it. Is this why the Republicans are having a military buildup off the coast of Venezuela to get the focus off of the Epstein files? Does anybody think there's any real substance to these files, or is this just a way to distract one side, the Democrats, to distract from the shutdown, and the other side is military buildup to distract from the Epstein files? So is there any substance to these Epstein files if they get released?
I got to go to Larry Schultz first because I can just tell he's drooling right now.
Trump's and that's out of anticipation, not any kind of deficit. Trump's reason for avoiding the Epstein files says that Mr. Trump thinks that there's something very, very wrong there for him. He doesn't really act this way until and unless the holiday for Mr. Johnson's people was, I believe, also driven by fear of the Epstein files, as was the refusal to swear in Adelita Grijalva, the new 218th vote. As time has gone on, interestingly enough, I understand that Congresswoman Boebert was actually called to a meeting in the White House or with White House personnel where there was a very concerted effort to get her to not vote for release of the Epstein files, which she defied. And she did vote to release them. I also note that they were saying that Nancy Mace, who's a congresswoman from South Carolina, also in favor, a Republican in favor of releasing the files, stopped taking phone calls from the White House at some point in the run-up to the vote. So, and if I'm not mistaken, the vote now is a little more comfortable than just 218 to 217. There's a few extra votes from the Republican Party in there. That is what a lot of this stuff is about, is the attempt to hide from this. And the more you try to hide from it when you're a politician, the more people conclude that, oh boy, you must know something I don't know. I really want to see those files. I don't believe that the Democrats have any reason to run away from the shutdown. It's been fairly clearly established that by simple majority votes, the Republican Senate could have done away with the filibuster and ended the shutdown anytime they wanted to. And that's borne out, the understanding of the American people of that is borne out by the fact that all through the shutdown, Mr. Trump's approval ratings have declined. And so I'm not so sure that the American people are blaming the Democrats for that. They want to get the Epstein files out, a lot of the people do, but I don't think that the shutdown is necessarily the fault of the Democrats, or that it's widely believed to be the fault of the Democrats.
Mr. Ferretti.
Yeah, Mike, I have trouble drawing the connection between the shutdown and the Epstein files, only because the effort to get these files released seems to be bipartisan, especially in the House, where now that the discharge vote has taken place, when the House convenes and votes on the release of these files, there's going to be a fair number of Republicans who line up to vote for the release. So it will be a bipartisan effort. The question becomes, is it so bipartisan that it forces the Senate then to come up with and craft legislation for the release of these files? Remember, a lot of these files fall under the Privacy Act and other protections, such as grand jury evidence. And it's going to take an act of Congress to get this released. And it's going to take the signature of the president ultimately to pass that legislation to get the information released. So the pinch points that are developing here in the near future are going to concern what the Senate does in response to the House vote to release these materials, and then ultimately what the president does, and whether or not he has the gumption to veto that legislation. It really puts him in a tough spot too, politically. Bottom line, I don't know that the president has anything to worry about in terms of being implicated in the trafficking or abuse of young girls. A lot of these ladies have been interviewed, and reportedly none of them have singled out Donald Trump as someone who was guilty of crimes. But I think the concern from the administration has to be at least guilt by association and prior knowledge of what Jeffrey Epstein was up to, and Donald Trump not coming forward and saying anything about it while crimes were being committed. So it's a tough spot for the administration overall, but I don't see the linkage between that and the shutdown.
Yeah, there's an interesting moment this week when the press secretary for the president said the president knew that he was a creep, and that's why he kicked him out. He didn't want him at Mar-a-Lago. And my first thought was Joe Paterno. Like, wait a second, you knew what was going on and you didn't report it?
Be careful, you're infringing upon Larry now.
Well, this is what it comes back to, right? This is the reason why Paterno was taken down, because they said he knew he was in a powerful position. He didn't do anything about it, right? That's the whole reason why he lost his job and his statue, and they don't call the Big Ten championship trophy the Joe Paterno trophy anymore, right? So Leavitt admitted in her press statement that he knew what was going on. They didn't report it. Now,
I don't think
she may have misspoke.
I don't think she admitted that he knew what was going. She admitted that Trump thought he was a creep. Not to what degree he was a creep.
I think she used the word pedophile.
Yeah, she said pedophile. The president knew he was a pedophile. That's why he kicked him out. That was her quote.
Of course, we'll qualify under the broader heading of creep.
Yeah, that was her quote. She used the word pedophile. And that was my first thought. Was the next follow-up question should be, wait a second, he knew he was a pedophile and didn't report it? Mike Carl.
my feeling about this is it's a complete overreaction, and should not draw all the attention and back and forth. But apparently there's so much detail, that's that's not been released, and there's so many different people involved that every public official is concerned that there'll be something in it that'll make them look bad. And but the concrete and clarity of evil actions and scandals is totally vague, but the volume of the resource is so great that everybody's afraid.
William.
Yeah, I'm going to stay away from the government shutdown. I'm hoping Mike Carl will raise that as his issue in a couple of minutes. I think Mike asked the question, was anything substantive in the Epstein file? There may be, there may not be. I don't know. To me, the big issue is the promise was made on the campaign trail going to open all files open. This is what I think is infuriating the MAGA community more than anything else, because the president has backtracked on that promise. Now, he's backtracked on other promises that has infuriated the left, but this one infuriates the MAGA community because they were promised that he would release all the files, and he's doing just the opposite right now. So I think it's a political perception more than anything else.
Mike Height.
Yeah, I'll go back to I think this could be political strategy again. I think that possibly this administration is like, no, we don't want to release these. We don't want to release these. And then in the end, they're like, okay, you forced me to release them. And then it's a big nothing burger, which is, I think the Democrats know that there's nothing to this. If there had been, they had the files for 4 years under the last administration. They had the administration. They had the Congress. They could have released the files anytime they wanted to. If Donald Trump was indicated or implicated in anything in these files, then why didn't you release them when he was running for office? They didn't, because I believe there's nothing in there that implicates Donald Trump or any prominent Republican. I think this may be more about international people than it is about Democrats or Republicans. This will turn out to be a big nothing burger.
We keep hearing that, but there sure is a lot of effort to not release stuff for a nothing burger.
Strategy.
Chess, right? Chess.
That's right.
This segment of the program today brought to you by the Mansion Ferretti Law Offices and also by Larry DeMarco and Company at Century 21 Modern Realty Results. We return with Larry Schultz and Mike Carl ready to go on the clock right after this. Michael Carl here as well.
Good morning.
The Admiral Bill Stubblefield.
Not doing my job, not punching, not getting the badger agitated.
Poke the badger. And via telephone, Mr. Ferretti.
Good morning.
Help me out, Joe.
Good morning.
Joe, you helping somebody out? That's not Joe's way.
And with issue number 4, attorney at law, Larry Schultz.
Yes. A recent report shows that home foreclosures jumped 20% in October of this year over October of last year. Do you think that Mr. Trump's suggestion of 50-year mortgages is the solution? Please tell us why.
This could be over in 3 minutes. All right, Mike Carl, I'm going to go with you first as a tax commissioner. There certainly will be a lot of interest paid on a 50-year mortgage, lowering the tax collections.
It doesn't strike me as making any sense at all. I mean, 50 years is, way. If it comes in when you're in your mid to late 30s, it probably exceeds your lifetime. So it's just a. I have no idea and I've not heard any details. Trying to justify it.
Mr. Stubblefield, you could have actually had a 50-year mortgage.
Yeah, I may still get a 50-year mortgage now. Who knows? I think that it all comes back to the affordability issue. That's going to be a campaign for the next election. My sense is the president is underwater under the affordability issue. This is one way to try to get him a little bit more breathing room on affordability. One of the things that's not been discussed is that for many Americans, their home provides them the greatest level of equity, greatest amount of equity. 50-year mortgage will take that much longer to build up a substantial amount of equity. I think it would be detrimental to not only the bankers, the mortgage lenders, but also in the long term, the homeowners themselves.
Joe Ferretti.
Well, it's a harebrained idea, and it is the brainchild of one guy named Bill Pulte. If you don't recognize that name, Pulte is one of the largest home construction companies in the country. Bill Pulte was handpicked by President Trump to be the director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, which overlooks the mortgage industry in the country. And unless you want to pay for your home 3 or 4 times over with a 50-year mortgage, you would immediately realize that this is not going anywhere. But this Bill Pulte guy is somebody to keep an eye on, because he's also the guy who is scouring mortgage records of people in Congress who are being targeted by President Trump for retribution. Eric Swalwell, just 2 days ago, was one such person that Bill Pulte referred to the Justice Department for mortgage fraud. And this all has to do with these Congress people who have 2 homes, and whether or not they declare one or both a primary residence to get favorable mortgage interest rates. That was done with regard to the member of the Federal Reserve, whose case is now going up to the Supreme Court. That was done with Adam Schiff. That was done with the prosecutor from New York City. And there's a litany of people who President Trump has targeted for this kind of selective prosecution. So Bill Pulte is the guy behind all this. I hope he loses favor with President Trump, because his ideas have been harebrained, and this is amongst them.
Jackie Long, who is the president of the school board, and in our Facebook commenting section today, posted a 50-year loan could add significantly more to the total cost of a home compared to a 30-year, with some estimates suggesting the total interest could be 87 to 100% higher. For example, a $400,000 loan at a hypothetical VA 6% interest rate would result in about $860,000 in total interest over 50 years, compared to $463,000 for a 30-year term, an increase of roughly $397,000. So that would be an unadvisable amount of interest to pay on a loan of that size.
If I could, going back to Bill Pulte, there is some nervousness in the Trump group to remove his ready access to Trump. A lot of folks feel this harebrained idea. He got through the inner circle, made this presentation on a personal basis at some gathering with Trump, and folks feel that he should be more or less removed from the easy accessibility of the president.
Mr. Haidt.
Amen.
This is one of the stupidest things I have ever heard this man say. 50-year mortgages. We must be out of our mind. You'll never pay it off. Now, I understand there are people out there that are stupid and they refinance their mortgage every time it gets a little bit equity into it. So it's essentially the same thing. They should have had a 50-year mortgage to begin with. People don't know how to budget. That's the problem with this. If you need a 50-year mortgage, you can't afford the house. Find another one. This is ridiculous. All you're doing is putting Americans in more and more and more debt. It's the last thing we need. 30-year mortgages are too much. We should get back to the point where you have to put 20% down. So you're going to have to save money for a while and put 20% down and get a 20-year mortgage. That should be what you're aspiring to do. A 30-year mortgage, that's the max it should ever be. 50, that's just ludicrous.
Bill, it took Pulte to get the Badger going here this morning.
It did. But once we got him started, he went.
He was flowing. That's
You never disappoint, Mike.
Trying to help you out, Bill.
You never disappoint.
channeling some Dave Ramsey there.
That's exactly right. He's probably freaking out right now.
Yeah, Ramsey says 15 years. That's the most, right? Mr. Carl, would you agree with Mr. Ramsey on the 15-year note?
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah,
It's tough.
That's a good goal. Yeah,
because very few young people can afford a 15-year mortgage, let alone a 30 right now. They had a report this morning. I think last year the average first-time home buyer was 38 years old. That number this year now has moved up to 40 years of age as a first-time home buyer. I bought my first home when I was 25, and I can't imagine too many 25-year-olds can do that today, right?
right.
And Rob, that's a good point that those of us on this panel should not overlook. It's easy for us to look back and say, save your money 20%, put it down, buy your house, and make sure you're worthy of the mortgage that you take out. But these young folks are really struggling to buy a home. As you cite that statistic, the average home buyer now has to be 40 years of age to get into a house.
These young folks don't know how to budget today either. They have to have the newest iPhone 42, and they have to have their Starbucks latte at $8.50 venti. I mean, for cramity's sakes, how about we budget a little bit? How about we sacrifice a little bit? How about we look at what's truly important instead of the self-satisfaction all the time?
Can you imagine the amount of energy we had on the show if Mike had started earlier?
Jeez,
Mike, I don't disagree with you. Certainly, the financial literacy of this country in the younger generation is lacking. I agree. In fact, that should be mandatory in some of our schooling pursuits. But the bottom line too is you look housing prices. The rise in housing prices has far outstripped other items that you referenced, like the cell phones and all, in terms of the pricing. The cost of housing today is out of sight. And even in these dual income homes where they got to pay for child care and other things and pay their school loans off, the money's not there to budget. So, yeah, we have a debtor nation, no doubt about it. And a lot of it is due to the lack of budgeting. But the realities, too, is that there's a lot of forces pulling people in different directions that is costing them their budget. And I fear that this is going to be a very difficult problem to solve for this and any future administration. Mr.
Carl, anything else to add?
No. I agree with you.
Yeah, you say the money's not there, but I see young people. Well, not just young people, old people too, that are too lazy to get up and fix a peanut butter jelly sandwich. But they'll walk to the front door and grab their Grubhub that just cost them 3 times what the heck it should. I don't know. I don't feel sorry for the younger generation as much as you.
Well, there's a mix here. We can meet in the middle on this, too. We can agree that there are ways of saving money that many people don't do because they don't want to be inconvenienced. That would make it easier to accumulate some money. But we can also agree that the starter home that I bought, which was a townhouse, a rather small one, for $102,000 back in 1988, doesn't exist today. What's the cost of an entry-level townhouse in Berkeley County now? $300,000? $350,000?
$250,000 anyway.
And what's the cost of a single-family house if you're trying to buy a single-family house now, even a small one? And the builders don't build small houses anymore. Everything seems to be a 4-bedroom, 3,000 square foot colonial.
But I think there used to be an expectation that you bought a starter house.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Everybody now wants to buy.
Exist?
I want my forever home now. Yes, they exist. It's just people don't want to buy them because it doesn't have central air. Well, yeah, lift the window, put a box fan in like we used to do. Buy starter homes. The starter homes are out there.
All right. Delegate Height says you don't deserve your air conditioning. That's in the next election, I think. Don't vote for Mike Height. He wants you to sweat this summer. Mike Height said children should sweat all summer long. This is what we want in office. All right, issue number 5, Michael Carl with the anchor leg.
Okay, this is a neutral question, at least from my perspective.
There's no such thing.
Is Joe Biden the worst president ever?
No, absolutely not. But besides Governor Newsom of California, who are the Democrats' most likely 2028 presidential candidates, and why?
All right, let's start with Mr. Stubblefield, an active
Yeah,
participant.
Mike, I think this question has been asked 3 or 4 times, and I give my same answer. I think there's a whole corral of very capable
But it
young
has
individuals.
evolved since the shutout now, the government shutdown.
Yeah, and I think that folks like Bashir and Pennsylvania Governor Shapiro, all of those are very much in the wings, and I think they're very attractive candidates. I do think Newsom, though, has elevated himself up. I'd more or less written Newsom off as being a has-been. Much the same as the governor of Michigan and 2 or 3 others. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think the fact that Newsom is representing the fight against Trump, that the Democrats want to see, that he's now a much more attractive candidate than he was before. I still think Bashir and Shapiro and those others are very attractive candidates, but I think Newsom is back in the mix.
Mr. Schultz.
Certainly, Newsom is the leader. Bashir, Shapiro, maybe at the fringes, Wes Moore of Maryland,
And Pitzer.
and J.B. Pitzer from Illinois, Pitzer. Yeah. Any event, I think those are the candidates. Now, given the way it worked out for Kamala Harris, it's an interesting question whether there will be a female who's a competitive primary participant. I don't know, but I have no doubt that there are women out there who are capable of doing at least as good a job as the guy we have now. So I hope some of them run, and we can get a program together to do this right.
Mr. Ferretti.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, Rob, but when you misspoke referencing a shutout versus a shutdown.
Yes.
The shutdown is what happened with Congress. The shutout is what happened in the recent election. And as I look at that election, I don't know. I can't pick out personalities and who's going to be, the front runner for the Democratic nominee, but I can predict that the nominee from the Democrats will look a lot like those 2 governors who just ran successfully in Virginia and in New Jersey. Centrist Democratic candidates focused on the economic issues. The reports from their elections where they basically gave a stiff arm to the far left of the Democratic Party and said, no, we're not going down the path of talking about girls and boys sports and boys and girls sports and all that. They avoided that. They were single-minded in terms of the economic issues which drive these national elections. And I think you're going to see candidates adopt that strategy, thankfully, and tell the far left of the Democrat Party, look, get real. Your stuff's not selling. We got to win national elections. So, to go off somewhere else and have your cause. I think that's what you're going to see. And I see candidates like Josh Shapiro, who I believe is a model of that kind of campaigning, being front and center in 2 years. Well,
Newsom came out several months ago and said we got to abandon this boys playing girls sports platform. We're not gonna, I'm not behind that any longer, and I think that if the Democrats want to be successful, that's going to have to be more of a stance that they begin to take, because it's red meat for the Republicans. Bill?
There's another aspect as well. During the campaign a couple of times ago, Michelle Obama said, they go low, we go high. The Democrats have backed off on that. The Democrats saying that Trump has proven successful by going low, we're going to do the same thing. Newsom is projecting this attitude.
Yeah, going low works, baby.
Going low works. Going low seems to be the best way to go.
What do you mean going low?
What Trump does.
Take low shots.
Cheap shots, belittle the opponent.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Heights.
Yeah, I think just the opposite of what Joe just said. I think that when you look at the mayoral race in New York City and now Seattle, where Democratic Socialists have won, that has emboldened the far left, and they see themselves as having a voice now, that they have elected people that see things the way they see things. I have heard mentions of an AOC run, a Jasmine Crockett run. So I think you will see those individuals that are espoused Democratic Socialists. And I'll say Democratic Socialists because Bill doesn't like the word communist.
No, there's a difference, Mike, and you're exactly right. There's a difference,
You're
and
right.
we tend to mix them.
Yep, and communist, more authoritarian rule, and you kill the whole thing, whereas Democratic Socialists are just against capitalism and want to destroy capitalism in the democratic way. But I think that far left is emboldened because of the recent wins. So I think you will see those people in the mix. Now, will they be able to hold up in debates against the likes of Shapiro? Maybe not, but I wouldn't discount them either, because I think we were discounting them in New York and Seattle, and much to our dismay, they had a voice, and now they even have a louder voice.
Your dismay, but not to a large populace. They're not their dismay.
Well, you're proving Mike's point there.
Yeah,
Bill.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think if Mike is correct that is the way the Democratic Party wants to go, they're going to be reduced to winning cities and nothing else, because that's just not the choice that the middle of this country wants.
This is the problem, and we've had this discussion many times. This is a problem with our primary system. This is the problem because the more extremes on both sides are going to be excluded. Let me go back to the Republican side. Nikki Haley, an individual a lot of us would embrace, has been a perfect moderate.
I voted for
Does
her.
she have a chance of getting through the primary? Probably not, because she's a moderate.
Back to you, Mr. Schultz. I know it's not your issue, but your thoughts?
I think that the women in the Democratic Party who could run could be like Abigail Spanberger. I don't think she would run, but it could be a candidate like her, pretty middle of the road, or AOC. That's why you have a primary, to test everybody and let them have some votes. But I don't worry that the whole nation is going to view the Democratic Party as being represented by Zohran Mamdani or the newly elected liberal governor or liberal mayor of Seattle. Most of us in the rest of the country don't say, well, what are they doing in Seattle? That's what I'd like to do here at my house. New York and Seattle are a heck of a lot different than Berkeley County, West Virginia. So I don't think, or any part of Pennsylvania except maybe the big cities. So I think that we will see a relatively moderate Democratic candidate for president in 2028.
If I could add, there's a central theme in both the New York, Seattle, and the Virginia, New Jersey. Central theme being affordability.
Comes back to you for a final comment, Mike Carl.
Well, I agree with Mike Height's view, and I just hope that the things, the liberal and show up and it gets confusing, because I'm going to be very happy on my side if an extreme liberal becomes the nominee.
All right, let's on that note, wrap it up here for a moment and come back with our final thoughts, 8 seconds apiece. Joe Ferretti will lead us off via telephone when we return. Final thoughts, Joe Ferretti, go.
As we mourn another miner's death in West Virginia, let's consider the over 900 safety violations his employer had.
Larry Schultz.
Have a good weekend. I think the weather's going to be nice.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Stay engaged.
Mr. Carl.
Beating Pitt has become more important for West Virginia in both basketball and football.
Mr. Height.
Go Dogs.
All right, that leaves me the chance to leave you with these final two comments from Mike's mom. The Badger had it right. Buy a less expensive home. From Mary Jane Renard, Mike Height makes it easier for me to turn this show off. No empathy at all.
I guess I lost her vote.
Don't you wish you came from a bigger family?
Dave Ramsey Show's next. Have a great weekend. This is Talk Radio, WRNR Martinsburg, and TV 10. We'll talk again in 70 short hours.